Welcome to Kickstart Your Life with Life-Changing Event. How to get inspired and motivated by something really life-changing would happen in other people's lives. So today I have an amazing guest with us today who will tell you more about how his life changed completely and drastically after one incident. Do you want to introduce yourself, or do you want to tell what is that event?
Yes, thank you for the introduction, Olga. I'm Roger Cheetham. I'm the founder of a dramatic story of resilience, which is based upon my own life changing event in June 2013, the 9th of June to be specific. My 13-year reign as a pub landlord, living bar manager, licensee publican, whatever term it happens to be in your part of the world, was brought to an abrupt end when I left the pub for the evening to take my beloved black and white Patterdale Terrier dog Jasper for a walk, left the pub as a dog walker and ended up that walk as an attempted murder victim, as I saw myself back then. Now I see myself as an attempted murder survivor, which sounds like a very small change in semantics, but it does reflect an absolutely massive change in mindset, which is something that I've developed since that time. I'm not going to insult anybody's intelligence by claiming that was an overnight thing, because it certainly wasn't. The attack was followed by not knowing whether I would live or not, and then obviously I did. I went on to spend 3.5 months in hospital, most of that in isolation, as on top of everything else I was dealing with. Within a week of being in there, I managed to go and contract myself MRSA. Yay me.
Yay! Challenging.
And when I came out, everything I dreamt for came true. I went back home. I was absolutely ecstatic. And within a couple of days of being back home, that had very much changed again. In that, yes, I was waking up in the morning back home, but not in the bedroom, in the family living room, which was also having to serve as my bedroom, bathroom and toilet. I was living according to something known in medical terms as triangular living environment, and I'm not sure what your definition of living is, but living between bed, wheelchair and the dreaded commode certainly wasn't my definition of living, and I would say they were probably the darkest times, and that in a nutshell all it is what happened to me in my life-changing event.
Which is quite shocking. And what I personally admire about you, Roger, is the strength which you had within yourself actually to look at this situation from other perspective. And you said beautifully in the beginning that you were a victim back then, but now you look at that as your survivor.
That's right.
How many people actually nowadays, they look at their situation, they complain and they moan and they're unhappy, and they look from the bad perspective? But only little twist what it takes, isn't it? The only little word which you use to describe your situation and how much your whole entire life can change. I would like to really you to express more about how and why you do it, especially when you're on the stage. Because as I spoke earlier, I really admire that you don't seek for bitterness. You actually use the story to inspire, rather search for people who actually will sit and cry there and sob because this happened to you and feel sorry for you. Why do you do it? Why not other way around, how many other speakers actually would do?
Yeah, for me, as you quite rightly say, Olga, it's not about having a sympathy grab or a pity party. It's about accepting the fact that I can't change the past. As I say to many people that I work with suffering trauma, that say they just want to get back to where they were before. Realistically, I'm very honest with them and explain, with a major trauma, it's not possible to get back to where you were before. You can't change the past. All you can do is look positively as you move forward. And it was that realisation that, as drastic as what happened to me was, I needed to turn it from a negative that had happened to me into a positive that had happened for me. In the early days of sharing the story with some amazing frontline NHS staff during my stay in Sheffield's Northern General Hospital, sharing the story with them one-to-one became very cathartic. It was a great part of my healing process. And as time moved on, I realised the story was no longer about me. It was about using it for a positive that had happened for me rather than a negative that had happened to me, and using it to motivate and inspire other people. So it was for the greater good of others.
I love that. I love that, and I think it's really powerful. But how was your experience in India? Because your story took you as far as across the whole entire globe to India. How did that story impact people there?
That's a great question. The way that actually came about is I was using my story to inspire and motivate people locally at an event that was the Elite Network Sheffield, hosted by a wonderful lady by the name of Sue Kerr. And Sue Kerr has been involved with the Old Ladies League and spoken at the Women Economic Forum in India for the last 2 years. And having heard my story, she got in touch with the Old Lady League and said, even though I was a male speaker, she thought I would be a real fit for the ethos of the event. And shortly afterwards, I received an email from the chair of the Old Lady League inviting me to go and speak over in India, which I gave 4 separate talks over there. Some of them including sharing the story of everything I'd been through, and to be speaking at an event with 2,000 delegates from over 120 countries over the 6 days, and having pinpoint silence throughout the tour, and you really realise at that point that you are making a massive difference in the world.
Wow. And this is what I mean, how sometimes life-changing events, like in your case, it was the attack, can change the whole entire life. But now not only yours, but also so many other people's lives across so many other countries. This is so inspirational. But if you go back to your story, your challenge, can you remember what exactly was keeping you on the track, kept you going, and was giving you hope, really? Because many people nowadays, unfortunately, complain about some petty stuff. And that's why the purpose of these podcasts actually to show people there are real challenges in life, like, for example, yours. But many people, they sit back and they think, oh, I don't know how to handle this. I don't know how to overcome this time and how to keep going. So can you share what kept you going? So maybe some of the listeners actually can apply the same tools or techniques, whichever you were using, during your dark time.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that surprises most people is they always think that the darkest time would be in hospital. And realistically, it wasn't. It was the time back at home. And the saying goes that the grass is always greener on the other side.
Yes.
And for 4 months almost, I dreamt of getting back home. And when I got back home, when there was just myself, my wife Claire, and my then 15-year-old daughter Tash, sharing that house together, because understandably, extended family and friends who had visited in hospital felt they were doing the right thing by staying away and giving us a chance to bond once again as a family unit. And from our point of view, we were very much in a situation where we didn't feel like we could ask people that had been visiting for nearly 4 months to carry on visiting. So maybe there's a lesson out there about communication.
Communication, yes. Tell people if you need help, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, and it's so hard to ask for help because we got used to be independent and to show we can do everything. But when you have to ask for help, it's really hard.
It is. I remember at that time describing how I was feeling as being laying in that bed, staring at the magnolia walls, reflecting my magnolia existence, and it really was an existence rather than a life at that time. And I also remember it crossing my mind, thinking, if this is all the existence I've got now, has it really been worth the fight to survive?
Yes.
For the last 3.5 months. And I very much, I won't call it a crossroads in my life, but I will call it a T-junction in my life, where I've got to make the decision of turning one way and just carrying on with that existence of waking up as late as possible in the morning, watching hour upon hour of lame brain daytime TV, and going back to sleep as early as possible just to make the days short enough to get through, or to find a way to turn that negative that happened to me into a positive that had happened for me. And again, I'm not going to insult anybody's intelligence by claiming that was an overnight thing. But that's when I realised that I had to find a way to go down that route, just to give me self-fulfilment more than anything in the short term. And I'm not going to claim that some sage walked into my life or anything like that, but I'm laying there contemplating my magnolia existence one morning. I remembered a quote from years ago that people would do more for others than they would do for themselves.
Oh, I like that.
And it was based on that I decided to start sharing the story that had been such a part of the cathartic process for me to help other people. It also, from a personal point of view, gave me confidence back because, yes, I'd been a pub landlord, so effectively my job was to fill my home with strangers day in and day out. And that had never been an issue. But when 3 unknown people try and take your life, I actually got to the stage where, when Claire suggested a couple of days before I was released from hospital that we went to the hospital canteen, I actually broke out into a cold sweat, started shaking head to toe, and said, I can't do it because there'll be people there. So it was that taking the focus off me and onto other people that I could help with the story, which meant I was able to go on to share it from stage with growing audiences, and as you've alluded to now, internationally. And also I share it quite frequently with secondary schools and even the odd primary school to motivate our next generation of decision makers and influencers who I believe have it even more tough than we've had it, that with resilience they can achieve anything they want.
I love that. I really love that. I like a couple of things there when you refer to your life as Magnolia life. I really like that. It's such a harsh, really harsh metaphor. But I think you're right. When you're there and you realize all what you do right now is just surviving, not doing much, it's very hard to go through that. But your willingness to actually inspire other people, what will happen to you, by going through overcoming your lack of confidence, it's really empowering. Because how many people actually sit there and they say, oh, I'm not confident because I can't just talk to strangers, and nothing happened to them. Nothing ever happened to them. They just don't feel confident because I know that they just don't feel confident. Possibly they had some circumstances happen to them, as always they do. It could be school, it could be university, it could be their family life, but nothing like you had. When 3 people are attacking you and now you're never sure if you're going to be alive. So it's another challenge, a part of just being attacked, and therefore as a result now you're kind of limited on what you can do, but at the same time you're not limited here.
That's absolutely correct.
Which is the most powerful thing. I love that, absolutely love that. So if we just kind of go back and rewind again, so what kept you going is the willingness to inspire and motivate others with your story, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, and then overcoming your lack of confidence, is it right?
That's right, yes. I would say the overcoming lack of confidence was a byproduct of lifting my gaze beyond myself and towards other people that I could help.
Oh, I love that. Lifting your gears beyond yourself so you can help others. Really powerful, really powerful. Okay, but apart of this, what happened to you now, what brought you where you are now, when actually I think you did the most amazing job. Because when you can stand there in front of a huge audience, inspire them, and motivate them to take some actions in their life, I think it's really rewarding. Emotionally, financially as well, it's all great. But could you imagine doing anything else in your life apart of this? Like, did you have any dreams apart of being a pub landlord, which is amazing? Yes, you have strangers every day, you have many drinks, you can drink whatever you want. But could you imagine doing anything else apart of what you do now?
Other than what I do now, speaking and spreading the message, if I had to choose something else, I think it would be to work with local education and work towards a reform in our education system, as I understand the importance of maths and English and academic subjects for our young people to do well. I'm really pleased to see the introduction of PSHE within schools now, not just looking at religious studies but also ethical studies,
yes,
and such like as well. And for me personally, I think the turning point where, if I was doing something different, it would be to make a difference within education, was the fact that I shared my story from the heart and shared that even though I'm a 6-foot middle-aged man, at the time of the attack, I actually did experience fear. I shared this with a year 6 class, which was the first primary school I had spoken, because I was quite concerned that when I shared the details of my story, it could have been a little too graphic for primary schools, but I was specifically invited to this primary school, which was a low demographic primary school where it had a number of challenged students, and I was assured that they were particularly a streetwise group of students that would be able to handle the story. And I shared that story with them, and one young boy, 10 years of age, having heard my story, found the strength to not only share with the class that he'd undergone physical and sexual abuse for the first 18 months of his life, to the degree that it had left him with permanent brain damage before being adopted. Not only did he find the strength to share that, and obviously from a safeguarding point of view, I did check that the authorities were aware of everything that he shared with us in that classroom. And whilst they were aware of it, apparently he'd refused every counsellor and advisor and such over the years, for the 8.5 years since that stopped. And just as a result of me sharing my story with that class, he found the strength to not only share his experience, but also to sit and cry his eyes out in front of a class of 29 of his classmates in an area where, unfortunately, the mentality is still drilled into our next generation that boys don't cry. And to see that this young person actually basically opened the floodgates and offload something that had been carrying with him for 8.5 years since it stopped, is the reason that if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now, sharing my message with schools, networking events, locally, nationally and worldwide, I would really want to be taking an active part in education reform, having seen the impact that it can make, having shared a real life experience with a class such as that one.
This is shocking. I'm so proud of you, genuinely proud of you, because you managed to change this little man's life forever.
Yes.
Because for undergoing something like this, he wasn't in charge. Obviously, he couldn't do anything about that. But he is in charge of what he's going to do with that going forward. But everybody needs a bit of a kick before we change our mentality. So you were the person who actually made this kick. You were the person who changed his life. You were the person who inspired him to actually just share, verbalize his feelings. And once you talk about what you experience, it gets easier. And I'm sure he probably even will find out as a counselor, maybe therapist now to speak to and actually deal with that. But imagine you would never go to that school. Imagine you would never see this boy. Imagine he would never actually hear you and he would never share this. He probably will grow up as a really nasty person, being angry towards everybody because of what happened to him. It is shocking what you can do when only you step back from your difficult situation and think, how can I use this to change other people's lives?
Absolutely that.
Wow, how long ago was that?
That was only a couple of months ago, literally just before I flew over to India.
Yeah, wow. Did you hear anything about this boy since then, or you didn't yet?
I haven't, just sadly doing what I do quite often. That is the less you hear, but to know at that point I'd made such an impact.
That's enough. Yeah, absolutely. Even if that, all what he needed, just to cry his eyes out and to release all that pressure what he had because of the memories and even just the knowing what has happened, I think for the rest of his life will be very powerful. But let's hope that boy will actually find the strength to actually go and speak to somebody, because that is quite nice to think for him to happen. But that could be another inspirational story.
Yes.
And that could be him one day sitting or standing in front of the audience and sharing that one day I heard Roger talking on the stage in front of us and he inspired me to share this. And this would make me think that my story could inspire many other people. So who knows, maybe you actually made the next motivational speaker that day.
You never know.
You never know. So, as we discussed already, a part of what you do now, it's probably very hard to imagine what you could do because you're doing an amazing job. But did you have any dreams or any aspirations when you were little? Or when you were going through the school, or maybe when you were at university? Anything you were dreaming about?
Oh, that's taking me back quite a while there, Olga.
Sorry.
To be honest, from quite a young age, all I ever wanted to do was work in IT.
Oh,
I remember having my first Sinclair ZX Spectrum at home that I spent many hours on. And when I left school, I went to college and got a BTEC diploma in computer studies. I went from there straight to working in IT, which was a job that I kept for 12 years before deciding that as a people person, I no longer wanted to spend time looking at a blank screen with a matching expression. And that was the start of my licensee career, not something I'd ever focused on doing. And I think the message in there is, while ever you may have aspirations, hopes and dreams while you're at school, then once you leave school and start pursuing that career path, I honestly don't believe that these times we live in now are times where a job is a job for life. So if you're not happy with what you're doing, having got the experience of being working and having something to put on your CV to say you have some experience of holding a job down, then look at doing something else.
That's it. Yeah, just change it and find yourself, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But would you agree that still you were dreaming to be the IT specialist? Do you still use some of the skills and maybe talents and gained knowledge from that time?
I would say because IT moves on so quickly, probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, some of your younger viewers are not going to have a clue what I'm talking about now, but when I actually went into IT, I was a COBOL programmer on a mainframe computer. So in these days and age of apps and fourth generation languages and such like, then the skill set that I had at the time is pretty much prehistoric.
Oh, because I'm like, what's that? I have no clue what is that. But this is what happens very often in life. Kids are growing at school. They look around at their mates. They look at their parents. They look at their mates' parents, and they are exposed to particular careers, to particular jobs, and particular industries, and this is how they build what they would like to do based on what they've seen so far, isn't it?
That's right.
So how did you change your career from being the IT specialist to actually doing the licensing, did you say?
That's right, yes.
How? How did you find out about that? Like, what made you do that?
I think everything we do, we're either driven towards something or we're driven away from something. And for me, it was a case of I'd had 12 great years in IT. The job had changed quite a bit, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate that we all have mornings when we'd rather roll over than roll out.
That's true.
But when I felt like that every day, day in and day out for 6 months, at the time I was 30 years of age, I was literally thinking, if I felt like this for the last 6 months, I cannot carry on like this for another 35 years, because I'm of an age where men did retire at 65 then.
Back then.
and ladies at 60, but obviously not the case anymore.
Not anymore. Forget that.
So I'm a real ale lover myself. I remember being sat in the Drawbridge pub in Kidworth, Rotherham one day, enjoying a pint of real ale, watching how much the landlord seemed to be enjoying his job and thinking, for someone who's a real people person, that's something I'm interested in finding out more about, and did, and that's what led to the career change. And that job as a licensee went on for another 13 years, and as you heard earlier, came to quite an abrupt end, which I'm quite often asked by particularly school classes who have an amazing way of asking you a question with refreshing honesty. I'm quite often asked, is that the worst thing that's ever happened to you? And I'm thinking, well, as a survivor of an attempted murder, there's only one thing that could be any worse than that, and I wouldn't be here to have this interview with you today anyway. So, yeah, I think from that point of view, I've very much gone down a route that I wanted to go down, and obviously at the time I wanted to be in IT. Being a pub landlord was never on my career path. Being an attempted murder survivor was never ever something that was on my career path.
I'm sure it was.
But without that, it wouldn't have led to me having the opportunity to being able to inspire others, either from the stage, in front of a classroom, or on podcasts such as this one that can go out and share the message for me while I sleep.
Oh, exactly, that's true. Do something you want, and that will be building your name again and again after you just publish it somewhere, as people say. That's true, but you know what I like what you said there, that despite you never thought you would become a pub landlord, what you did, you were observing other pub landlords, and you realized I can do it myself. So this is another way how you can expose yourself to other things in life, other goals, bigger missions, bigger whatever else you want to do in life, just by observing other people.
Absolutely.
What other people are doing, what I could do, what jobs are out there, what I could do, what other businesses are out there, what I could do. I wouldn't actually say that with other partners out there, because I think we should stick to our partners. But yeah, it's quite relatable to so many areas and aspects in their lives, isn't it? When you do a sport, what other sports activities are there? So actually I could be involved in and actually do as well. What experiences are there? But because when you sit in a box and all what you do is just usual activities like you were doing within your IT career, you end up one day lying there, being 30, thinking to yourself, I don't want to do that.
Yes.
And that is very harsh. That is very harsh. Wow. So, do you have anything within yourself what you really believe in? Almost like your life mantra or your, let's say, your life motto, which you keep telling yourself all over again and again?
Yes, I think if anything, as a well, I say if anything is a positive, there are a number of positives that have come out of this experience. To be honest, one of them is it's given me a real understanding of empathy, of sharing and understanding the feelings of other people, and also of resilience as well. And I think the mantra that I do live my life by, that I take every opportunity to share with others that I can motivate and inspire, is to always remember, choose how bleak things get. Not only can you get through it, you can emerge a stronger, more positive and improved version of yourself.
I love that. Improved version of yourself. Always work on that. So would you say now you are improved version of yourself you were before?
Very much so, yes. I mean, before, whilst I felt fulfilled at the time, life was about serving pints of Stella, other lagers are available, to regular customers, whereas now life is about delivering a life-changing and potentially life-saving message by inspiring and motivating other people, and that for me is much more worthwhile and much more fulfilling than what I was doing before.
Love that. That is so powerful. I've got another question coming from going back to the situation which you were in, which is coming from family perspective. The reason why I want to ask this question because I work with numbers of clients who actually do have parents in difficult health conditions or diseases or something else which is impacting their life quite a lot. So my question to you is, how your daughter was impacted by what happened to you? Because surely there was an impact. Apart of just maybe you couldn't be as flexible as you were before. A part of this, there was emotional, there was surely financial as well. But how she was impacted and how did she kept going?
That is a great question, and I always do take time out to recognise the strength of my daughter Tash, who, as I mentioned, was 15 years of age at the time.
Yeah.
She was undertaking her GCSEs, which is a stressful enough time in any 15-year-old's life.
Yeah.
And while many 15-year-olds would have taken the view of what's the importance of exams when I don't even know whether my dad is going to live or not,
That is shocking.
Tash saw things very differently, and her view was, I'm going to do the absolute best I can under the circumstances, so if my dad does survive, it can add my exam results to the ever-growing long list of things he's immensely proud of me for. And I sit before you today, one heck of a proud dad, able to share with you that she left school with 11 GCSEs at grade B and above, and I think that would be a heck of an achievement for any 15-year-old. But for a 15-year-old dealing with what Tash was dealing with at the time, absolutely amazing achievement. Very proud of her.
I am speechless. I'm seriously speechless because you are right. This is the hardest time in every 15-year-old young adult. And when they go through the GCSE, there's nothing else what is existing in their world. But to be able to overcome the stress what she had because of what happened to her dad and still keep going, I think she learned a really powerful lesson in life. That was surely just building her and preparing her for the future of her life, for anything what can bring in the future. That is shocking. What is she doing now? What is she up to?
She shares my love of animals, and she's qualifying at the moment as a veterinary nurse working in a practice in Bolby near Doncaster, South Yorkshire.
Oh, beautiful. And surely she's very proud of you going all the way to India and sharing the inspirational story.
I'm sure she is, yeah.
Oh, fabulous, fabulous. So, Roger, if people would like to talk to you and would like to contact you, what would be the best way? Apart of, I will definitely post the link to your details, but what would be the other way to find you? Are you on social media? Do you do any work like locally where people could see you on a regular basis? Or they should actually follow the link which I will post below the podcast?
I'm happy to work with any group that I can make a difference to, logistics permitting, anywhere in the world. The website that I have is currently under construction, so the best way to get hold of me in the short term is by emailing roger@rogercheetham.com. And people of Sheffield have just missed me actually, because on Monday the 10th of June I shared my talk with Spice HQ, formerly known as the Curry Club, in Kerala Spice on Abbeydale Road, and we had a great evening there. But anybody watching that feels like I could make a difference to the people within their organisation, whether that's a commercial organisation, whether that's in education, whether that's people that are struggling with mental health issues at the moment, because obviously there was an aspect of that with everything that I went through, then please do reach out and email roger@rogercheetham.com.
Beautiful. And what I'll do, I'll post the details so you can see them just below the podcast for your attention, so you can contact you. So you said you are ready to go internationally as well.
Yeah.
And when it is coming to England, are you ready to travel outside of Sheffield as well?
Definitely, yes.
Great.
I've actually, for anyone that's sort of listening to this quite down the southern half of the country, it's just sprung to mind that I mentioned the Elite Network Sheffield earlier, and the last Wednesday in June, the exact date escapes me, I'll be speaking for the Elite Network in Chelmsford, Essex. So anyone that sees or hears this that's about at that time, please do make yourself known and let me know what you thought.
That's fabulous. I think what we should do is to actually post details under the podcast of these events, so people would, if they want to book, they can actually go directly and book it once the details will be released, I guess.
That's great,
Because probably it's wait. No, actually, it's June. It's very soon.
It is, yes.
Yeah. Great, fabulous. Well, thank you so much for being
You're
here.
welcome.
I really appreciate all your wisdom sharing and you taking your time, first of all, to come here, see me. And I personally apologize for all the background noise, which makes this very real because we're not in my office. Yes, but I just didn't want you to travel too far, all the way to Bocho. I thought I will do the way coming to you here, and we actually making this podcast and this video in a hotel, and therefore you will hear some people walking around, wandering and listening to Roger's story. But actually, no, they have to book a ticket, actually go to attend an event to see Roger in real life. Are you planning to write a book or something? Because I think your story would be great in a book. This is just came to my mind. You don't have to answer that, but it just came to my mind. Would you think about writing a book?
I have actually written and published a book called,
Already?
Yes, in March 2018 I launched my first book. There's a clue that there'll be more coming. And that was The Life You Deserve. And the reason I went for that title was the fact that everyone needs to realise that they do have the self-worth within them to deserve that life. I could have just as easily have written a book called The Life of Your Desires or The Life of Your Dreams, but referring back to the Magnolia existence I had at the time, that was just too much of a stretch. I did, as part of my self-development, read a number of books and listen to happy clappy YouTube videos and all sorts at the time. And what I found is, whilst there were some fantastic books out there written by people such as psychiatrists and clinical psychologists, etc., I couldn't really find anything from the victim / survivor's point of view, which very much reinforced the feeling at the time that I was the only person going through that, and decided to step up and fill that void. So there was a limited edition of that book launched in March 2018, which very quickly sold out, and I'm currently working on a first edition of that book, which will be released shortly.
So people can't buy the original book anymore?
No, it's completely sold out.
Oh, that is not fair.
The first edition will be coming shortly.
All right, so what we need to do is just to post details about that as soon as you have your book out.
Yes, I'll keep you posted on that one, Olga.
Yeah, right, let's do that. Well, I didn't know you wrote a book, actually. That is quite powerful. Wow. So, looking forward to the next one now.
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, thank you once more for doing
welcome.
this, for your time, for your wisdom, for everything you share with the audience, because I think all of them will find some golden nuggets within everything what we discussed and what you said. And I will look forward to do another podcast with you in some years future, after maybe the book is released, so we can maybe bring some more golden nuggets in here and share more wisdom with the audience.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.